Today is the 7th of February 2010, and this is the first Teisho for this year, and the first Teisho in our new Zendo. Since before Christmas, when I was preparing to write the newsletter, been thinking about this whole question of giving and gratitude and saying thank you, and thought it would be a good thing to give a Teisho on, to have a chance to explore these things which are so central to practice. Periodically in newsletters, we've been thanking people for various things that people have donated and so forth, and I was getting ready to do that again, and was really quite staggered by when I was trying to write out all the things that had been offered by people over the year. What a huge list it was, and how the centre really is completely reliant on people's generosity. But at the same time, I've always had mixed feelings about naming people when doing this, because the naming has some problems around it, because sometimes people don't want to be named. They want to be able to do their acts of generosity anonymously. It can also generate feelings of competitiveness or inadequacy in people sometimes, and also it's very easy to leave somebody out, which can have negative effects. So this is really this talk will be a way of exploring some of those issues around both giving and saying thank you for what is given. As everybody probably knows, giving is the first of the 6 paramitas, or perfections, which are essential factors of enlightenment. And the meaning of this word paramita is crossing over to the other shore, meaning the shore of liberation, the shore where we are free from what binds us, from fear and anger and craving and delusion. So giving, or dana, is one of the ways in which we cross over. It's a very central way in which we leave behind I, me, and mine. Another way of understanding dana is that it is the practice of love, of loving kindness, or of non-separation, which is seen as the basic thing that causes us suffering. Another way of understanding dana is that it's really putting into practice the basic teachings of the Buddha, which are teachings of interdependence, praticca samuppada. The way we express this truth of interdependence, of mutual interdependence, is by mutual inter-support, as Aiken Roshi puts it, through giving, through supporting others. Gratitude is very closely related to giving. One way of understanding gratitude is it's the enjoyment that we get from receiving others' generosity. In The Lost Art of Compassion, Lorne Ladner has this to say about gratitude. As we think of others' kindness and grow grateful, our feelings of fullness allow our compulsive desires and ego defenses to relax. we become more open to others. And only when we acknowledge what is good and great in ourselves do we become consciously capable of sharing it with others. So you can see how giving and receiving and gratitude are all intimately related. You can recall here too the etymology of the word kindness, which is related to the word kin. Kindness is an expression of kinship. Saying thank you is, of course, very intimately connected to our feelings of gratitude. It's really a natural impulse, and it's something that we don't do just once, but over and over. It's very much a part of our ritual in Zen. The most obvious expression in our ritual of gratitude and thank you is bowing. Our bows at the end of chanting or sitting when we bow to the Buddha and to each other is a way of expressing our gratitude for the teaching and for having a Sangha to practice with. But giving and receiving and thanking are not just aspects of Buddhist teaching, they're universal. Aiken Roshi, in his book on the Parameters, quotes Emerson. The wind sows the seed, the sun evaporates the sea, the wind blows the vapor to the field, the rain feeds the plant feeds the animal. This is the natural cycle of giving and receiving, what Emerson calls the endless circulation of the divine charity. And here this word charity, this Christian term, is very much akin to the Buddhist understanding of loving kindness, which is really the source of giving. So it's really much more basic than something doctrinal. It's the way the world works. I guess this is really where thanking can become a kind of a fine line. Thanking volunteers, say at the centre, because really to give to one's centre, to help it to run, is just in the natural order of things. The centre belongs to the centre's members, and people just do what needs to be done. Certainly, when I do thank volunteers or in newsletters or otherwise, it's not a personal thanks from me so much as an expression of thanks on behalf of the Sangha. But too much thanking can actually emphasize self and other. Often people who are very uncomfortable with receiving will give excessive thanks. Sometimes it comes out of not realizing that receiving is also giving, because you're giving somebody the opportunity to give by receiving. In time we were talking about this, and my teacher, Roshi Kolheed, mentioned signs. You sometimes see a sign in some institution, and it'll end with thank you, such as something like please place the dirty cups in the dishwasher, thank you. And he was sort of expressing his distaste for these signs because he felt that they were emphasizing self and other. To to place dishes and dirty cups in the dishwasher is just to do what's necessary. Why do you need to thank somebody for it? It's almost applying sort of there's almost an annoyance in there. Oh, thank you. At least you've put the dirty dishes in the dishwasher. Stupid people who don't do it. There's a kind of intimacy that we reach with people we live with, family, where we don't have to be so careful about saying thank you. One of the reasons is that there is an understanding that we are one. But on the other hand, thanks are also important because there's always two sides. And yes, we're one, but also we are giver and receiver in some sense. And so it's natural to want to express appreciation. But in terms of thanking volunteers, although I have in the past done these lists and newsletters where I've named people who've done certain things, I decided that from now on I'm just going to list what people have done but not put people's names there. I'm going to do this in the next newsletter. This way people's anonymity will be preserved, but at the same time we can be reminded about just how much people are doing and how the whole centre functions on that basis. One of the other things that can happen with this naming is that we can become somewhat attached to praise or approval and be given out of that compulsion rather than just freely. It's a kind of immature impulse wanting approval or praise. In the sutras, the Buddha talks about the highest, almost mature kinds of giving containing no expectation of reward of any kind, no need for recognition or repayment or thanks. And we don't need to feel bad about giving when there is some expectation of reward. But we can understand that if we really fully comprehend the nature of giving, we will see that it's its own reward. Giving is receiving. The satisfaction we get from giving is completely sufficient. I heard from this indirectly from my teacher, Roshi Kolheed, that Roshi Kapo, his teacher, used to say, praise is poison. He felt strongly that to lavish praise on Zen students was unhelpful because it was likely to inflate the ego, and that people would, because it would give them satisfaction, they would attach to it. And certainly if you look at the way the masters often seem to operate, they seem to work on this principle. Very little praise, a lot of harsh admonishment. But this is a steep attitude, and sometimes it can actually be helpful to acknowledge people's contributions. It may be just what a person needs in order to really see the value of that contribution and keep going, depending on where that person is at in their training. They may need to know that they are valued. There's a razor's edge really for a teacher, when to praise and when to not say anything. We've also got to understand that thanking people can be an important practice for the one who receives, that at least there needs to be mental gratitude, even if there isn't expressed gratitude. I've heard that in some Theravadan countries, monks do not even bow to lay people when they receive something. And the idea behind it is for them to thank the person, would be to reduce the amount of merit that that person would receive from their giving. And so out of you say, in a sense, wanting them to get as most as they can out of their gifts, they don't thank. But the danger with this is that this lack of even expression of thanks can lead to a kind of arrogance and belief in one's entitlement. Fairly frequently by email I get messages from monks who want to come to New Zealand. They may not be very genuine monks, it may just be probably is mostly just a scam for trying to get into other countries, but these letters from purported monks will often end with sort of demanding things like, you will regret it if you don't help me, or it's quite distasteful. Or you'll be, can you not give me assistance on this? These kind of expressions. So in our tradition, we don't follow this rule at all. It's really, we go the other way and express our interdependence and our mutual receiving and giving through bowing, through expressions of gratitude. Meister Eckhart, great Christian mystic, said, if the only prayer you say in your whole life is thank you, that would suffice. Really, the religious attitude, whether you have a religion or not, is an attitude of gratitude, of openness to life's gifts. So often our craving or our idea about what we think we should get or have, it obscures this openness. A modern day Christian mystic, Brother David Steindl-Rast, said, all is a gift. We are to accept the given until it becomes a gift. We are to accept the given until it becomes a gift. Until we can appreciate that it is in fact a gift. The classical sutras are full of teachings on the nature of dana, the nature of giving. Can't hope to cover all the ground that the sutras cover in one talk, but I just picked out a few points that I found interesting or helpful from the early sutras. In one, the king of Kosala asked the Buddha to whom alms should be given, and the Buddha replied that one should give to those who it makes you happy to give to. Very interesting that he would emphasize, well, just give to those who you like giving to. It gives you joy to give to. Elsewhere, the Buddha emphasized this aspect of giving. A very famous statement that he made. Giving brings happiness at every stage of its expression. We experience joy in forming the intention to be generous. We experience joy in the actual act of giving something, and we experience joy in remembering the fact that we have given. Another emphasis in classical teachings is on the importance of motivation. The essential nature of giving is that it's done freely. No coercion involved. Just this giving that is a giving up, a letting go of something with happiness, willingly. Really, the essence of giving is freedom. True giving. In one sutra, the Buddha lists various motives for giving, and these include a whole range, including some which were sort of impure, like giving because you think you have to, and so forth. But the one that he holds up as being the most exalted is the thought, this is an ornament for the mind, a support for the mind. In other words, giving because we understand that it helps to free us from samsara. Or one writer puts it, to rid ourselves of the ugliness of selfishness. And it can be very, very giving a tiny little thing or giving something very large. And it's really the motivation, the thought behind it that shapes the benefits or the merit that we gain from our giving. The Buddha said that even somebody who throws the rinsings from their bowl or cup into a pond and thinks, may whatever animals live here feed on this, receives merit. So even just something as insignificant as the little bits of food that are rinsed out from your bowl, is that is given with the spirit of, may this bring nourishment to some small being. That's positive. We can take this up as a practice, just taking care of food especially, not wasting it, and then what is left, what we're not going to eat, to think carefully about how we dispose of it. This isn't just a Buddhist thing either. It's very much in Christian countries, the spirit in regard to bread. Not throwing bread away, bread being the staff of life, sacred really. That even if you have stale bread crusts, you don't throw them in the bin, but give them to the birds. In another sutra, the Buddha lists gives instructions on how to give, and he lists there 5 different qualities that we can have to our giving, and these are to give with a sense of conviction, to give attentively, to give in season, to give with an empathetic heart, and to give without adversely affecting others. Yes, to give with a sense of conviction is to give sincerely and wholeheartedly. And for this we need to get in touch with our hearts and find what feels right for us, so that what we give, we can give sincerely, without regrets. And that means being honest about where we're at. If some occasion comes along where we're asked to give, and we just feel too tired, or other things we need to do, we feel totally burnt out, then to take care of ourselves and do that. So that when we are rested, then we can give. And to give what we feel we can afford, not more. Giving attentively, we can understand this in different ways. Relates to the sense of conviction, in other words, to give without not just going through the motions because we feel we have to, but really putting ourselves into it. But we could also understand it as giving appropriately, in other words, paying attention to a situation, to the person, so we give what's actually needed, what's really useful in a situation. So this, we could include here the harshness of the old masters as giving, or giving feedback to an organisation which may not be popular feedback. You've been willing to stick your neck out if you see something that needs to be looked at. It may not always just be nice. Giving in season means giving at the right time. This is an important one. We can miss an opportunity to give. Think if here was somebody's depressed and you give them a call, it could make a huge difference. But if you get that little impulse and you don't follow it, then you can really be regretful later. A couple of people that I've met since my mother died have expressed their regret that they were thinking of her and wanted to come and see her, and somehow the busyness of before Christmas and everything, and they didn't. And so they feel sad about that. So it's always a matter of just paying attention to those impulses and following them when we have them. Because people do die, or moments of opportunity do pass. People do need us more sometimes than at other times. Someone's moving house, they may need your help that day, not another day. An encouraging word may really save somebody from much anguish if it's given at the right moment. Just as a word of criticism at the right moment can be very helpful. To give with an empathetic heart. In other words, to give lovingly. In another sutra, instruction is given that one must be very careful about not giving in a way that could embarrass somebody or make them feel humiliated. So it's not just about material things, but about generation of a sense of warmth and friendliness and of valuing a person. The last one is also important, giving without adversely affecting others. In other words, our giving has to be sort of holistic and see its effects. Think of famous examples of Tolstoy, who, although he came from an aristocratic background, he decided to live like a peasant and give away all his possessions. And there's a wonderful idealism in that, but it was absolute torture for his wife and daughter, or daughters, I don't remember. But for them, who weren't ready to give up everything and live like peasants, it was extremely painful. There's also teachings in the sutras and in the Zen tradition about how to express gratitude. In other words, how to give thanks. Speaking thanks, saying the thank you, can be important, but it really doesn't do justice to our deepest feelings of gratitude. Really, the way that we give thanks that is more satisfying is with our body mind. And this is really see the way this whole process is circular. The ways in which we most effectively express our gratitude for what we have received are the ways in which we give. One teacher, when asked, how can I possibly ever repay you for your teachings, would say, you repay me through your giving to your practice, through your dedication to realizing the Buddha Dharma. Master Dogen put it this way: the true way of expressing gratitude for coming into contact with the Dharma is not to be found in anything other than our daily Buddhist practice itself. That is to say, we should practice selflessly, esteeming each day of life. Practice selflessly, esteeming each day of life. The way we make a cup of tea, the way we pay for our vegetables at the greengrocer, the way we talk to somebody, all these can be expressions of gratitude. Elsewhere, Dogen says, when one learns well, being born and dying are both giving. All productive labour is fundamentally giving. Entrusting flowers to the wind, birds to the season, also must be meritorious acts of giving. Giving ultimately is the act of freely giving up the self, forgetting it, just doing what needs to be done. The most natural thing in the world, just taking care of things. Master Fa Yin said, what is the mind of the ancient Buddhas? It is that from which flow compassion and joyful giving. We'll stop here and recite the 4 rounds.